My testament to student studying critical medical anthropology by Mitsuho Ikeda, emeritus, professor emeritus of Osaka University, Toyonaka, Japan. Dear friends, as the time has come to say goodbye to my student in medical anthropology, I feel this is a good time to make my testament. This document can be divided two parts. The first part described my own experience in rural Honduras in the mid-1980s. The second part describes the heroes that I looked up when I was graduate student of public health and social medicine. But the second part will be omitted because of my time limit. In the mid-1980s, I joined the Japan Overseas Cooperation Volunteers, JOCV, in Honduras, Central America. My work was involved assistance for public health education in rural areas in western mountainous part of Honduras. I researched how people think about the health through specific practices. The local people who received our public health program understand health is simply as absent of disease. They do not give the word salud, that means health in Spanish, the positive meaning that Westerners sometimes refer as positive health. I think the concept of health was newly introduced from outside the community. There exist two concepts of health. One was traditional concept of conditions of a body without disease. The other was positive health in modern Western sense that we would try to introduce from outside the community. Nevertheless, we tried to introduce new positive health into community. The people did not accept this, maintained the old concept. We confront epidemiological barriers local people. One Honduras Ministry of Health officials used to say, they are ignorant, not we are ignorant. Local people were ignorant. He said that because the local people's ignorance, our public health program would fail. He thought that the villagers were ignorant in public health knowledge. However, this official had completely forgotten that own concept of positive health also had once been educated. The villagers, of course, did not consider themselves ignorant, nor were they aware that they are resisting against the officials' public health programs. The village people expressed that new public health program was simply too difficult to use and understand. Consequently, they were ironically labeled as resistors by officials. Of course, programs had attractive points for villagers if they could attend free seminar of our programs. They were offered basic drugs, a notebook, a meal, or some snacks as reward by registering their names. Also, there were advantages such as being able to make friends by attending the workshop. Once the project started, villagers benefited from being able to borrow free loan money for the installation of lettering. Small but lettering can be a strong symbol introducing a new concept of positive health. Those who accepted the project recognized themselves as progressive, while these who did not accept it were still ignorant. But the ones who did not accept were criticized as progressive as having sold their souls to outsiders, such as the government people. The public health program had introduced the seed of discord into the village. The officials, however, expressed people who did not accept the program ignorant in front of them. Unfortunately, this kind of insult was also introduced into the village through the public health program. At the same time, in villages where various social dynamics were functioning, informed consent did not always proceed rationally. Insofar, not all villagers would accept a new public health program. Program supervisors were evaluating the program by yield rates and performance in community. Officials were participated with explicit competition according to their yield rates and performances among their own different communities, programs, for whom was a public health program. Naturally, for common people, but also for working officials who were ordered by their project providers. Here, I told to explain this case using the Foucauldian theory. For instance, a person who had studied these theories would interpret in this way. Michel Foucault said that power, especially political power, does not only oppress people, but makes them into new subjects that practice and social effects. In my case, to be recipient of public health program is to be subject through being acted on. However, then a person who rejects the public health program coming into the village must also become another new subject. These resistors oppose the program, and this is why stereotypical adjective, ignorant, conservative, and not progressive were attracted by the proponent of programs. When I participated in the healthcare program in Honduras was in the worldwide primary health care, the Almata Declaration started at 1978. As stated above, I assume that the Foucauldian theory can be applied into the primary healthcare approach. Here, there are other two types of good health, the Honduran on the left and of the Nicaraguan on the right. These two images, good health, were different depending on their governmental political ideology. Honduras was an anti-communist supported by former President Ronald Reagan of the United States. Nicaragua had the Sandinista revolutionary government, which promoted the anti-capitalist good health policy under the support by Cuba. The mid-1980s figures demonstrate the national differences between them. Then, even if community-based and community participation based on informed consent are central, the self-determination of resistance to the introduction of external programs might also be respected, not prepared. Be prepared. I was not very aware of this during my stay in Honduras. After leaving country, I learned about rural appraisal by Dr. Robert Chambers, the principle of the action research by Soltax, which also long history in anthropology, and the consequent subsequent community-based participatory research, CBPR, in which the option of rejection from the people's point of view rather than resistance from the side of the power holder. I was that I should be respectful, accepting the opinions of refusal as being equal accordance and acceptance. Just as I have learned the people's autonomous spirits in public health program. When medical anthropologists have the will to change the conservative or traditional things in a village, it is always decided problematic as it violates the dogma or doctrine of the cultural relativism. But anthropology has long accepted as discipline to its work. On the other hand, in applied anthropology, it is commonplace to identify malfunctions within community and through discussions with the resident to confirm the will of the community to promote project. Today, when the former terms applied anthropology as faded and become public anthropology and or engaged anthropology, egalitarian dialogue within the community, a community's autonomy is very important. The cold-hearted word cultural relativism has also receded in medical anthropology, and the emphasis is now on cultural egalitarianism, dialogue under equal condition, and community-based autonomy. I will skip my slide and the slide 11, okay? Back to the 1920s. Imagine Japanese doctors in social medicine. Japanese social medicine from the 1920s onward, as described the proceedings of this meeting, tried to live up to Wilfie's dictum, medicine as a social science to the bone. Medical doctors, like applied medical anthropologists today, tried to practice their social medicine by spending time in rural villages and urban squatters. However, in Japan, from the 1930s to 1945, they were grabbed by thought control policy, recruited by military soldiers, and young idealist medical doctor survivors were disappointed by Japan's defeat in the war. After Japan's defeat, the occupied military had introduced United States public health policy, instead pre-war German Sozialmedizin. Back to the future in 2024. Imagine community-based applied anthropologist. Now we confront with dilemma of whether to change our mind or reform our society. We are requested to behave with reflective criticism. It can fall into another pitfall, reproducing unreflective criticism. Criticism for criticism's sake, and falling into mere condemnation. Criticism is an act like walking a tightrope, but worth to try again and again. My last words, my testament, are as follows. We must not only hope that through criticism, the future of the subject will change in a favorable and appropriate manner, but we must also have the courage to change ourselves as critics. Yours sincerely. Thank you very much for your attention.